There should be no opening gag today. DC have got far too much riding on this. Hi, my name's Harry Kirby and welcome to my non-spoiler review for the Justice League. Justice League is directed by Zack Snyder with some assistance from Joss Whedon, who came in and did some reshoots. And after the events of Batman v Superman, Bruce Wayne, inspired by Superman's sacrifice, enlists the help of Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman and Cyborg to take on a new foe, the deadly Steppenwolf. Okay, let's start with the positives. And looking back at DC's previous films, I really enjoyed Man of Steel. Didn't really enjoy BVS. The Ultimate Cut was a bit better, but still had its flaws. Really didn't enjoy Suicide Squad at all. Loved Wonder Woman. And this film is definitely a step in the right direction for DC. And I think the main positive to come out of this film is the interactions and the chemistry between the core heroes. All of the actors playing the heroes work really well, but then also mesh in a great way when they come together as a team. Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot, was really strong, and I think after the success of her solo movie, in some of the reshoots they kind of pushed her forward in this film. She had some great action beats, some great character moments, and I really enjoyed seeing her on screen again. We see Jason Momoa for the first time as Aquaman. He looks cool, sounds cool, and has so much presence on screen. He doesn't get that much to work with and doesn't get that much screen time, but I think in the future instalments of his own solo film, we're really going to see him shine. We also saw Ray Fisher for the first time as Cyborg, and I really enjoyed his performance in this film. I felt like he brought a kind of realness to the character for a guy who is, part cyborg, part human. And for me, he felt just like the character from the Teen Titans, so I thought he did a good job. Ben Affleck returns, maybe for the last time as Batman, and it was his job in the film to round up the other heroes. And I really enjoyed seeing his interactions with them. I just love the way Ben Affleck portrays Batman, the way he moves, the way he looks. He's got some seriously cool bat suits in this costume and some really cool new gadgets to play with. And finally, we have Ezra Miller as the Flash. And this was the character I was most interested to see, as I love Flash in the comics, I love him in the Justice League animated series, I really enjoyed the TV show, so I was really interested to see how he turned out. And I think Ezra and the team did a good job of portraying him. He was funny, I liked the look of the costume, and his action was great as well. When I showed him obviously using his abilities, it looked really cool. I could have done maybe a little bit more Flash action, just because he's my favourite Justice League character, but in this film he's kind of new to his powers. So I understand why he doesn't get quite as much action screen time as I would have liked. There is some great action in this film. Aquaman gets some standout scenes, so does The Flash, and in fact all the characters get some time to shine. And as a huge comic book fan, seeing all these characters coming together for the first time on the big screen was pretty special. And overall, on the positive side, I think this is a good course correction from films like BVS and Suicide Squad. Overall, it felt lighter, brighter, the jokes worked better, and overall I just think it was a better tone. I want to talk about one more positive that kind of leads into my negatives, and this contains a very small spoiler. If you've seen any of the trailers, you'll know about this, but just in case you haven't and you want to remain completely spoiler-free, jump to this time code where the review will continue spoiler-free. So as I said, if you've seen the end of BVS or you've seen any trailers, you know that Superman makes a return in this film. And from what I can tell, all of his scenes have been completely and utterly reshot by Joss Whedon. How can I tell this? Because when Henry Cavill was brought back to play Superman for these reshoots, he was already shooting another film where he'd grown a big moustache, and the other studio wouldn't let him shave it for these reshoots. So they had to shoot him as Superman with this moustache and then remove it with CGI. And wow, you can really tell they've removed that moustache with CGI. His lip looks really weird. Whenever he's speaking, it kind of looks fat or thin or moves in a strange way, and it is quite off-putting. And that leads me to my final positive that I wanted to talk about, and that's that even though he had the dodgy CGI lip, I'm really glad they reshot it. His character was so much better in this film. He smiled, he laughed, he was light, he felt hopeful. So regardless of the dodgy CG, I'm really glad they did those reshoots. Okay, time to get to the negatives, and this film was a little bit of a mess. Especially at the start of the film, it's jumping all over the place and sometimes with some quite drastic changes in tone, where obviously you had two directors working on the film, and that can be quite jarring at some points. There are also some points where the characters are fully CGI, and the CGI isn't that great. Maybe that's because I did reshoots and they had to rush it, but again, that was something that sometimes pulled me out of the film. And that leads into our villain, Steppenwolf, who was completely CGI. And although I thought he did actually look quite cool and had some really good action beats, but because he was CGI, it was really hard to make a connection with him, and he felt a bit more like a computer game character rather than a real villain. I feel other superhero films sometimes have this issue, like Marvel, and that is that Steppenwolf was essentially just there to be the bad guy. We didn't really learn much about him, and he was just there for someone to fight, which is fine because we want to concentrate mainly on the heroes. And his final negative is linked to Batman v Superman. For anyone who's seen that film, they have to kind of ignore a lot of what that film set up in this film. And that's partially because they want to go on this course correction, which I think is a good thing. But at several points where certain points of dialogue, certain points of action, I was like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense in relation to Batman v Superman. But I suppose overall, I'd rather than be steering away from that anyway. So it's kind of a negative and a positive rolled into one. Okay, time to give the film a score. And overall, I think the positives definitely outweigh the negatives. It was a bit of a mess, it was a bit all over the place, but they got the characters right, which was the most important thing for me. And the action was great and it looked cool, so I'm going to give this film a worth a watch. I hope you enjoyed my review, guys. As always, give the video a like, feel free to subscribe, and let me know what you think down in the comments. I've done my review, now you do yours too. And whatever you think of Justice League, just remember there was a time when DC films looked like this.
Freeze us.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
You are not sending me to the cooler.